I had symptoms all the time. Even back then, I could never understand why my energy levels were not the same as my peers. Dizziness, vertigo, headaches, migraine, flu-like symptoms, panic attack, insomnia, conversation. I couldn't talk to someone for more than 5 minutes. My throat would just swell out if I had a conversation. So Adrian would have to tell people if they wanted to come and see me. I couldn't talk anymore.
Yeah, even just the cognition of sound was just too much. Always with the dark glasses on, because daytime, the light it was too much.
I can walk now and I can go to the shops and I can drive. I haven't driven in 4 years, so that's a major win for me to be able to drive. I've had all of these big physical wins too progressively, but I feel like the biggest wins have been the mental wins. Just being able to cope with life and the challenges in life in a calm way, be balanced, make logical decisions.
I couldn't use my arm. Cooking was not possible, so Paris had to do it. And I was like, oh wow, she's cooking. This time last year, she was bedbound, and now she's cooking for me.
How's it going, Thrivers? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, we have Paris and her support system, her husband, Adrian, all the way from Australia, and her story is very, very inspiring. She was one of those cases, one of those people who was dealing with this for quite a while, well over a decade, when she first started implementing some of these principles, diagnosed with CFS back in 2009. And at her worst, she was bedridden, needed a lot of help, very hypersensitive. But now she's out there living her life. She's driving again. She went on vacation, and she's able to be the mother she wants to be for her kid as well. So Paris and Adrian, you want to quickly introduce yourself to everybody on here?
Yeah, hi, I'm Paris. My husband, Adrian, we've been married for 22 years, but a lot of it has been with sickness. And so it's great to just be living a normal life again now.
Yeah, it's wild. I remember just over a year ago, it was last September. Right now it's November of the following year, but I mean, you look very different from the first time we talked. You're like glowing, your skin is glowing. Back then it was, you lying down, struggling to even talk sometimes on the call. But it's been quite the journey for you. So let's explore this. How did all of that start? Back in 2009, and maybe you had some stuff going on a little bit before that. How did this all come about?
So actually, I didn't really realize I had CFS in 2009. It was more around 2015 when I got those really heavy symptoms. But the doctor actually back diagnosed me to 2009 because that's when my symptoms actually started. And now looking back, I had symptoms as a kid. I had panic attacks when I was 7 and these random shooting pains in my body when I was around 10, and doctors could never work it out. But it's been the last 10 years has been the worst. I haven't been able to work, and it's been a struggle. At my worst was last 2 years ago, I guess, now, back in 2022.
End of 22.
Yeah. I had surgery, and then I just didn't recover from that. I was bedbound. I would sometimes make it outside to lie outside in the fresh air. But otherwise, Adrian was bringing me my meals in bed. I couldn't watch any TV. I went a couple of weeks without showering, and then I had to sit, and Adrian had to wash my hair, and I'm in the shower nearly passing out because I couldn't sit up. So it was really intense, really intense.
Yeah, that sounds super intense. And so that was at the worst of it. Now, for a lot of that time, so since 2009, that's when you got back diagnosed. You were functional, you're semi-functional, but you were feeling symptoms most of that time. It would really come and go.
Yes. Yeah, I had symptoms all the time. And even back then, I could never understand why my energy levels were not the same as my peers. They seemed to be able to do all of these things, and I just couldn't keep up with it. And I would push myself because I should be able to do it. And doctors often tell me, just exercise more and eat healthy. So I would just do more exercise, and that would just make me worse. But yeah, at the time then I was still working, but I was having to push really hard.
Yeah. And what kind of symptoms were you experiencing in addition to that fatigue? And let's say, when you were at your worst and you were pretty much stuck in bed, because I remember when we first talked, there's a whole list of things, but kind of want to hear it from you.
Yeah, dizziness, vertigo, headaches, migraines, flu-like symptoms, panic attacks, insomnia, conversation. I couldn't talk to someone for more than 5 minutes. My throat would just swell up if I had a conversation. So Adrian would have to tell people if they wanted to come and see me, no more than 5 minutes, you have to leave, because I couldn't talk anymore.
Yeah, even just the cognition of voice, of sound was just too much. And always with the dark glasses on, because, if it was daytime, the light would it was too much.
I remember some of our early calls where you're wearing those dark shades and glasses to just reduce the sensitivity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and my food intolerance is really high, so a lot of gut and digestion issues.
Yeah, she was down to like 5 or 6 foods that she could eat every day. That yeah, at the worst, I was preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner for her and bringing it to the bed. And with a 6-year-old who couldn't understand why mum couldn't come to the dining table, and yeah, make sure that breakfast and lunch was prepared before I went to work, and then so that she could get it there in bed. And it was horrendous.
Yeah,
Horrendous.
that's wild. That is wild. And what was it like for you, Adrian? From a caretaker's perspective, I'm sure you guys are doing tests and scans, and you're having to kind of try to figure this out on your own, probably, both of you guys. But what was that like, being in the shoes of that support system or that caretaker?
Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. We spent probably the equivalent of a house worth of money in all these years. We actually live now on the end of our in-laws' house. Very, very kind of them, but we were going to doctor to doctor. We must have been to 20 physicians, traditional doctors, naturopaths, scans, blood tests, you name it. And every one you go to raises your hopes, and then it's down, up, and then down, and that cycle. Being the support person for that, and the disappointment after each one, but trying to keep Paris, with some hope there. Really difficult, but so necessary, absolutely necessary. And when she was bedridden last year, and with, as we said, with the 6-year-old as well, she wants to play with mum. Mum couldn't play with her. Mum could barely talk to her. So, I'd have to explain to Matisse why mum couldn't do this, and that's almost impossible. That just makes no sense to a 6-year-old. But keeping a mentality that we knew the body wants to be right, and this program made the most sense out of the last 20 things we've researched, and continually every day reminding Paris, this is your nervous system. I know this day feels really intense, but let's just get through this day. Let's just do it. Let's just get through this day with a mindset that's okay. Doesn't matter if it's perfect, but it's okay. Let's just get through this hour if we have to. That's what we need to do, because tomorrow will be another day and we don't know how it's going to be. Yeah, to have that mindset as the support person, I think, is absolutely necessary for the one who's going through it.
And, I'm sure you had to be her kind of anchor of hope, of just an anchor of logic as well, to remind her, like, hey, we're going to stick to the plan here. We're going to keep the train on the rails. Just get through the next hour. Just get through the next day. right? And someone to really keep Paris grounded. I mean, that was my doctor for me. When I started feeling like my mindset was getting slippery, and I started thinking, oh shoot, am I going to go back to square one? This is not feeling good. A lot of times I felt like this. I went right back to square one. He was like, no, 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 this is part of the process. So it's so important to have that anchor that you can lean on, Paris.
Yes.
So when they diagnosed you back in 2015, what happened after that? Did they offer any solutions, or did you like anything for you to try?
The first doctor I went to, she Googled chronic fatigue syndrome, put it into
No,
Google,
never again.
and printed me out a piece of paper from Google about what Google said,
Oh,
and
man,
said, and told me to do some exercise and see a psychiatrist.
that's crazy.
That's what I got.
That was the beginning of our
So I didn't
journey.
go back to that doctor.
What?
Yeah, I'm guessing that didn't work. Right.
That didn't work. So then I moved on to doctor after doctor, and I mean, a lot of the things were told, okay, you've got all these viral load, your viral load's too heavy, you need high dose vitamin infusions. So, I did vitamin infusions, I did detox programs. It was like, oh no, you've got mold now, so you have to detox from that. I think I tried every supplement available, and some would help for a little bit, but then nothing. It would just, nothing had lasting results. I tried every diet possible because of my gut issues and ended up cutting out so many foods. I tried water fasting. I tried not eating for like 5 days.
Man,
It was insane.
must have been
And
brutal.
yeah, it was.
That was
It was,
insane. That was insane.
Chinese medicine, acupuncture, blood tests. It's just
Every single thing.
And I look back through now some of my notes when I went to the doctors about all my symptoms. And now it all makes sense. But at the time, you have all of these random symptoms that don't make any sense, and the doctor can't make sense of them either. And it makes you feel stressed and anxious about how can these things be really happening when there's no cause for them. So at the time, it was.
Seeing the perplexed look on doctors' faces does not give you much confidence.
No,
Every single doctor,
Yeah.
by the end of the treatments, they're just like, we have no idea. I'm sorry, we have no idea.
Oh yeah,
And-
and the
And
amount
I
of
find-
people who said that is, and who have
Yeah.
experienced that, and I've experienced it. That's definitely not a reassuring experience when the doctor is confused.
Yeah.
You're like, uh-oh, that's not good. That's really not good.
And at the time, it makes you analyze your symptoms so much more because you're going to the doctor with all these symptoms, but you want to tell them. So I'm like constantly writing down every symptom I have and looking at my body, like what's this symptom and what does it mean and how does it correlate to the other symptoms? So you're always got this hyper focus on all of your symptoms, which now we know just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think as people, just naturally, we want an explanation for what's going on. So when you're not getting an explanation or an answer or a clear answer from doctors or specialists, then you go in there and double down and triple down on the research and drawing up these other plans and researching different solutions. And to be fair, this is out of good intention. It's like, okay, maybe let's try this. Let's try IV treatments, let's try this supplement. And, there's a lot of stories where it does work, but I wasn't one of those people. And most of the people with CFS that I talk to don't find lasting benefits in them. Maybe a little bit in the beginning. I mean, that could even be placebo, but eventually, you start to rely on this external thing to kind of fix this.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't really do the job. When things were really bad, right? I guess that's when you were continuing to look for solutions. When did you come across CFS recovery?
So I had given up. I told Adrian, I said, I'm not seeing any more doctors. I don't want to go through this roller coaster. Emotionally, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And my nervous system was I could even feel like my nervous system was at its end by then. But I guess that lasted a few months, and then the desire to want to get better made me go on to YouTube and Google again, and I searched chronic fatigue, and that's where I found your videos on YouTube, actually. Yeah, and I started just watching them. I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense. And so I showed it to Adrian, and he's like, yeah, this makes sense. For the first time, I felt like it explained all of my symptoms, and I could feel it then, because I could feel my nervous system was just shutting down.
Yeah.
So to me, it just really resonated with me. And then, to be honest, I was scared about joining the program, because I had joined so many things by then, and I felt like I needed a break from being committed to something. But then I thought, you know what will my life be like in 6 months' time if I join the program? And what will it be like if I don't? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I bet you if I don't join, I'll get to 6 months and I'll wish that I had joined it. So I could be already in it now. So that's when we decided that
this was an
I would join
avenue
the
that we
program.
had never, with those 20 physicians we went to, this is one that nobody had ever talked about. Never about the nervous system.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people realize as well. Very similar story to yours, where, they've tried so many different solutions. They tried everything, doesn't work. They're not getting better. In fact, they're getting worse. So they start to look for solutions, and then they come across our content. And for the first time, a lot of them say, wow, this actually makes sense. Like, I can see how this is a nervous system thing. These are my symptoms. These recovery stories, that's exactly what I'm going through. Wow, there's other people like me, and there's an actual, there's a system to recover. And so even though there's so many people, and unfortunately they spend sometimes well into the 6 figures on trying to fix this, so the skepticism is very high, and it's hard to know who to trust. But a lot of them get to that point where it's like, okay, if I don't try this or something, I'm nearly guaranteed to stay stuck here, or it's just not going to turn itself around. Something drastic has to be done. So either I could not do something, probably going to be in the same position in 6 months, or I could try something and give it another shot, because there's no other options here at this point. Right. So when you first came on board, let's say your first month or two, what was that like, coming on board, being around other people who are also dealing with this, but most of all, being able to talk to Krista, who is your coach, and message her directly? What was that like when you first came on board?
It was invaluable. It really helped. I mean, I had so many questions when I first came on board, and I got answers to all of them, and all of them made sense. So that really helped. I mean, physically, it was a rough couple of months. I remember I would join the call for an hour and a half, and then I would be in bed with a migraine. Well, I was in bed anyway, but I would continue to be in bed with migraines, like my symptoms just really flared up. And it would be like that until the next call. I would just make the next call. And then that was 2 days later or 3 days later. And then the same. Symptoms would flare up. So that was basically all I did. And it was like that for a couple of months.
A good 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
I remember physically in the beginning, it was
always with the dark glasses, looking at the screen.
Exactly.
And just concentrating and focusing for an hour and a half was really hard for me. Just the mental stimulus. And because I wanted to participate and get answers to my questions, I was really focused on those times, which really helped, but it also took a lot physically out of me at that time.
Yeah, I remember you'd be either lying in bed or sitting on a couch with those glasses or shades, Sometimes you'd be sitting outside, in the sunshine, and then the next call you'd be back inside, like, in an AP or adjustment period. But
Mhm.
the great thing with you is you kept showing up. You kept showing up. You kept, following the plan, and especially all the tweaks Krista was doing for you. Um, you kept your foot on the pedal, essentially, not as in continuing to expand, but never really saying, this is not going to work. Nah, this doesn't work. You were always like, okay, let's keep going. And you were very adaptable. And I think that's why, you saw such massive changes down the road. Because
Yeah.
initially, a lot of people like you, it's very tricky to build momentum in the beginning, especially if you're trying to do this on your own. Like, let alone by yourself with people, it's difficult. So, we got the train moving in the right direction, got the ball rolling. What was your first big win? Like, do you remember that? Your first big win, or it could be a mind shift or something physical.
You know what? This is the tiny win that I had in the beginning. For the first few months, I'm like, if only I could wash the teapot, then I'm
Mhm.
going to get better. And honestly, it took me about 3 months to wash this teapot. And then I washed the teapot and I'm like, oh, I did it.
It's like a milestone.
It was like, and I'm like, oh, okay, I still have a way to go, actually. But that was my first, thoughtful milestone that I had.
To actually be able to stand at the sink and wash a teapot was huge.
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
not to have to take it and do all the
Yeah. And I remember, I think it might have even been 4 months in, I sat up for one of these Zoom calls. That was a big milestone, just the fact that I was sitting and not having to lie supported. But it took me about 4 months to get there. I wasn't one of those people that just bounce back really quick. I know there's ones that bounce back physically really quick. For me, it took a lot longer, and I really just had to keep that mindset strong. And I knew it would come, but it was slow.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, it wasn't until probably around the 9-month mark that I felt like, oh, I'm starting to actually, I can go walking and I can, sit at the table and have dinner with my family and do all of these things. And then all of a sudden things started to fall into place a lot quicker. But it was a long time where I had to really keep that mindset. I think even about the first 6 months, I just felt like I was in a continual adjustment period all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time.
And what kept you going through all that? Just, it's kind of like, you're in the fire, and then you get glimpses of coming out of the fire, coming out of an AP, then you're right back into a flare up. Like, for you, how did you keep that mindset of, no, let's keep doing this? Eventually it's going to work. Like, what kind of kept you on the tracks? I know you had Adrian here, you had some of the coaches' support, but for you internally, what were you telling yourself throughout that time?
I think I really believed it would work, and I really had to focus on my wins, no matter how small they were. So if I just sat up for a bit during the day, or I did a bit of coloring, or I, played with my daughter for half an hour, and that was it, that was a win for me. And I just really focused on those wins compared to how I was in the beginning, even if it was only a minute thing. So really focusing on that, and also finding something to be grateful for every day. It didn't matter how small it was, but finding something to be grateful for really helped me to just be thankful for the day. And, Adrian was there like saying, yeah, you made it through another day. You're one day closer to recovery. And I had Krista, I could message. So that really helped. And internally, just really believing that it will happen. Actually, one of the videos, I remember you had a graph and it was like flat and flat all in the beginning. And you said you put in a lot of effort and you feel like you're getting nowhere, but then all of a sudden it will start to rise. And I kept remembering that video and the one where the boulder breaks, the chipping off
Rock
the boulder
splitting.
breaking. Yep.
the amount of times I reminded her about the boulder and just chipping away at that crack.
Yeah.
Yeah, really,
Powerful one.
really important visual, that one. Really important.
And listening to other people recover too, just knowing that it will happen, not being focused on how long it takes. That was really important, because whenever I tried to get better in the past or with other doctors, I'd think, okay, this is it. And I take this medication for 6 weeks and I'll feel better. It was always with a time limit in view, or a time frame in view, or we'd plan a trip and I'm like, I have to be better in 3 months. That's my goal, to be better in 3 months. But I took all of that out, and it made a big difference just not being focused on the time. It doesn't matter if you're in adjustment period for a day or a few weeks. It's progress either way. Viewing each day as progress, no matter whether it was a good day or a bad day.
Yeah.
It's helping my body to heal. And I think that's what really helped me.
And Adrian, what was it like for you for those first 4 months that were, kind of a grind? You're seeing Paris go up and down in terms of her capacity. You're seeing her in the fire, slowly come out of the fire, then right back in the fire, and repeat that cycle like many times. How was it for you watching from, kind of the outside?
Yeah, it's exhausting, to be honest. But I think it was so important that, like in the beginning, you watch the first 6 weeks, you have these tutorials basically explaining how the nervous system works, what it's responsible for, how repair happens, what your stress levels do, those visuals with the boulder and cracking that. I watched all of those, whether it was with Paris or at a separate time. I made sure I educated myself as much as Paris was educated, because I figured I was going to retain probably more of this information than what she would with her cognitive
Brain fog,
migraines. Absolutely. And every call that she had with Krista, or the group calls, I would make sure I re-listened to every one of those, so I knew what she was working on that week. And so, when Krista would mention, well, maybe we're going to try, 30 seconds of piano playing now or something. For Paris, that was just mind blowing. She's just like, I can't do this. And I'm like, let's just try. Let's just sit at the piano first. Let's just try it. So I think educating myself as much as possible with how all of this program worked and what our nervous systems are responsible for. I couldn't have been that strong, I don't think, without having that knowledge myself. It's really, really important. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's difficult watching your loved one, and then with a 6-year-old there as well who can't fathom what's going on. It's hard. It was heartbreaking for a lot of it, but we're here now.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
here. We're out of the fire. The plane is taken off the runway, and you're reintegrating back into life, Paris, and both of you actually. Just it's like a new lease on life. It's kind of like turning the page to the next chapter, which is very, very exciting. And yeah, it's so important. Like now we tell people, we really emphasize that, hey, if you have a support system, bring them to this initial call, but also bring them to the check-in calls, bring them to the group calls as much as they can, especially in their first month or two, just so they understand what you're going through, because it's so much easier to be that anchor, for your loved one who's dealing with this thing, if you know what's going on. Whereas if you don't really know what an adjustment period is or what a progress cycle is, you would not be able to see, you wouldn't be able to see any progress on the outside, and you wouldn't really understand what to say in what situation, and how the flare-ups are actually part of the process. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean it's not working. Like it's working, but just slowly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think it's good to see, like when Adrian joined or listened to the calls as well, you'd see other people who are experiencing the same thing. So it's not just our situation and us. It just opens it up to a wider, a much bigger perspective to know that we're not on our own in this, and we're not going crazy in our own little world.
Yeah, which when you go through something for this period of time, you know, seeing symptoms from 2009, it's now 24. You know, you start second guessing. Are we nuts? Like who else does this?
Feels like a dream, right? Like a bad dream.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, friends and family, they're like, you know, this is not really normal. This is, and we're like, we know, but what do? We can't stop searching. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely feel very isolating, even if there's both of you in this. It's almost like you guys in this little bubble that's separate from everybody else's experience of life. Like even just going out for social events, Christmas, birthdays, like, oh, checking the clock. How long can we stay here before Paris flares up? Or can we really drive that far to that person's house? Or should we just take it easy? You know, little things like that. People would never understand who don't have CFS. So it's hard to
things that we have cancelled through the years is not, it's not funny. It's not funny. Well, honestly, listening to those group calls, so I would re-listen to them on my way to work. And I remember so often just being in tears, hearing what others are going through, and the fact that we're not the only ones who are going through this. And to have that whole perspective, it makes it just that little bit easier to be the support person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So back to your recovery journey, Paris. Okay, so you were able to wash the teapot, and that was like a milestone in the journey, right? Seemed impossible before, but you were able to get it done. And then you realize, okay, we did that. There's still a lot of work to do. So what happened next? Like, how did that kind of change your mindset, or did it change your mindset where it showed you that it was possible?
Yeah, it showed me that things are possible even when I don't necessarily feel like they are. And I know another win in the beginning was to play the piano for 2 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And then just gradually you increase things. In all honesty, we've had a really rough year, Adrian and I. Like Adrian's been hospitalized twice. My dad's been in hospital. My sister's been in hospital. Our dog's been attacked. My daughter's been sick. It's been a rough year.
Probably the roughest year we've ever
had external things. And still at the end of it, I'm like, we had the worst year we've ever had, and I've still managed to get better,
improve.
Okay, yeah, I'm not 100% yet. I'm not back to fully integrated into life. I'm not at that point, but I have had a massive improvement despite all of these external challenges that we've had to face. And so I think for me, honestly, the biggest wins have been emotional wins rather than physical wins. Yes, I've had physical progress, like, I can walk now and I can go to the shops and I can drive. I haven't driven in 4 years, so that's a major win for me to be able to drive. Adrian had to teach me. Again, so I've had all of these big physical wins too progressively, but I feel like the biggest wins have been the mental wins for me. Just being able to cope with life and the challenges in life in a calm way, and be balanced, make logical decisions. Like Adrian and I, we look back at our life now and we're like, we made insane decisions, completely emotional, insane big life decisions.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, we were mental.
we did a lot, but there were a lot of things that we look back now and think that was the nervous system for both of us. Honestly, nervous system was just all over the place and making emotional decisions all over the place that just led to further decline of health. Honestly,
So I think that ability to make logical decisions has been a big win. Also, the ability to just enjoy every day. I realized in the past I was living always for the future, for the next big thing, for the next holiday, for the next move, for the next big whatever. But I said now I can just enjoy each day, and each day I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be for the next big thing. So just a lot more in the present. That's a big win for me. And
Yeah,
I feel like now that my foundation is really solid, I feel like the physical things will just fall into place. So yes, I've had big wins, as in, I can meet friends. We went out to a cafe the other day, and I ate scones with
Jam
and cream. And I mean,
Oh.
I've had, which is huge for
been
me.
years. It's been years.
Just being able to eat more foods is a really big physical win for me.
that's huge for a lot of people too. It's like you go back to doing the simple things, but it's a different experience versus before. Like you just appreciate being able to walk outside, feel the sunshine, wake up early, just breathe fresh air. And especially when it comes to food, I think what CFS does, it takes away so much freedom and makes you live inside this box. So it's even food, right? That's huge. I used to love food. Then I got sick, couldn't have any junk food, not even a little piece of chocolate without paying for it, like a heavy price, migraines, feeling sick. So I didn't have really any sugar, any junk food, any chips, any burgers, fries, ketchup for a long time. But once I got better and I was able to eat all that stuff, it's like the best thing ever. Just like your story with the jam. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was always the girl who, when we went out to cafes, I was always the one who would always just order herbal tea. Everyone else would have this great food selection, and I'd have herbal tea. So just to be able to go out and choose something off the menu,
actually order something from a menu,
is a huge freedom. And I'm not at the point where I'm just going out and eating everything yet. I haven't quite got that confidence, but to be able to just try different things and be okay with it is a big step.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like experiencing stuff for the first time again. That's what it felt like for me, but you're experiencing life through a fresh lens, because I was also somebody who kind of just rushed through life. It was very difficult to stay in the present. I was either thinking about what do I have to do next, or thinking about the past, what has already happened, stressing about stuff. Like that's just an energy drainer. So when I became so grateful for being able to stand up again and not have to wear like 2 layers of shades to just go outside and not have to wear earplugs all the time, it was like a new lease on life, and it made me realize all the stuff I took for granted, especially food or watching movies or even just sitting down with family. You know, I took it for granted. So that's something CFS definitely taught me, you know. For you, what are like 2 or 3 golden nuggets you can share with people? You know, somebody who is maybe in your shoes when you were a lot less functional, and what were some of the most helpful things for you or strategies that you put in place? Maybe it was a mind shift about what flare-ups are, or responding well to symptoms. What do you think were some golden keys, golden nuggets for you that helped you?
Yeah, definitely responding well to symptoms, and the understanding, the knowledge for me really helped why it was happening, because then I knew that it's okay. It's going to be fine. It'll pass. Nothing bad's going to happen. Just really that understanding really helped. And continually swatting negative thoughts. Continually. In the beginning, it's all the time.
the whole day.
Yeah. It's a lot.
And just honestly, just to keep going and stick with the basics. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's not complicated. you just have to keep that right mindset, and it may not happen quickly. It may take time, but it will happen. So just keep going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no matter what's happening in life around you, it doesn't matter. Use those things as an opportunity to help your nervous system rather
Mm.
than be anxious about them. You know, just you can't control external things. And we had a lot of external things this year.
We did.
And just keeping that same mindset through those really helped me to level up and get better. And it wasn't easy at the time. It was really hard. But just knowing that it will end, knowing it will end, I will come through this and I'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a lot of these recovery principles, they're very applicable to more than just symptoms and CFS. Like you can really use them in life. Like, I'm sure, Adrian, with all the stuff you dealt with this year, you know,
Absolutely.
you understood the principles of recovery as well.
Completely. I was back in end of June. I ended up getting a really bad sinus infection. I had to be hospitalized. I collapsed. It turned into sepsis, so my blood system was being poisoned. And it was all very full on in the hospital. They thought I was bleeding internally. It was an absolute nightmare. And through the whole thing, I'm just telling myself, look, the situation is what it is. If I keep my nervous system calm through all of this, surely when I come out the other end, it's going to be much better. Because if I react really badly now and freak out and even pain management, the pain management with your diagrams there of the 16 places all fired up and then coming down. The amount of time I've used that this year and it's worked is absolutely unbelievable. Just 2 months ago, I've had fairly major surgery. I've had my first rib removed because of blockages to nerves and arteries and vein to my arm and head. I did so much nervous system preparation leading up to the surgery. And then even after the surgery, the pain management protocols that we learn with your program, the nurses couldn't believe how little pain management I needed. She said,
Wow.
usually this is one of the most painful surgeries to ever, for anyone to ever have. And she said, usually at the back of you, you're set up with 4 or 5 different pain management things that will feed in when you need them. And she said, you've got none of that. We can't believe how little pain you're in. And, it just, my throat wanted to close up. I had all sorts of things. I'm going, you know what? I think that's just the nervous system. I think it's just the nervous system. Stop it. Go away. And within time, my throat just opened up and I was breathing normally. The pain was managed. Obviously, I was on painkillers, but I didn't need the big morphine and all that sort of. The nurses couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, I'm glad you studied the stuff too, because you knew kind of what to do when these stressors came up, not just, emotional or mental stressors. This is an actual physical stressor that could have, a lot of times chronic pain can stick around for a very long time until you go in there and manually override it. So
I still have, this will be an ongoing issue with nerve problem down my arm and everything, but daily I'm still doing it. I need to, because it's allowing me to just live and have a conversation and just manage it, without huge amounts of painkillers, which is terrific.
Oh yeah. So Paris, I mean, how is it for you seeing the roles kind of switch? Not completely, but it's like as you're getting healthier, you see Adrian run into these health issues. It's interesting. We see it quite a lot where, there's an individual and then there's a support system around them who's just pouring their energy into them. And then once that person who's struggling starts getting better, starts getting their life back and their problems start going away, it's almost like they now become they take on more of a caretaker role to the people around them. So what was that like, making the switch or transitioning?
Yeah, it's been interesting, definitely. We actually, yeah, I mean, Adrian was out in hospital for a couple of weeks. So while he was there, I was, looking after our daughter and doing all of that. And things that I thought, I wasn't capable of doing, I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually do this. I can cook dinner for us. It's just you get so used to the support person doing things that sometimes you don't take over as quickly. So it was kind of a forced takeover.
Yeah.
I had to help prepare dinners and do things like that. And actually, Adrian and I had a conversation about this a few weeks ago too, because Adrian's so used to being that support person that he will automatically just do all of these things. Even now that he's got his own health issues, he's still going and doing all of these things for me because he's so used to doing them. And I said, Adrian, you don't have to do this for me. I can do it. But because it's in his mind that he just has to keep going and keep doing this, we had to have a conversation about the things I can do, the things he can do, and the things that if we need help with, we'll ask each other for, because otherwise it's just an automatic role that Adrian is playing that we have to now rework into our life. That, okay, I can cook sometimes or help prepare sometimes, and he can cook sometimes, but it's just
It's strange, right? It's like
we had to have
rewire that
about things that we can both do,
Yeah.
so that Adrian could start letting go of some of that responsibility.
In the first month after my surgery, I couldn't use my arm, and so cooking was not possible. So Paris had to do it, and I was like, oh wow, she's cooking. Like this time last year, she was bedbound, and I was having to wash her hair in bed, and now she's cooking for me. Like this is.
And there were some days that I couldn't manage, and I'd had to ask my parents for help.
Yeah.
And that was okay. When everything got a bit much, I still asked for help when I needed it. But overall, it's like, okay, I can manage these things, to do these things. And it kind of just opens the horizon, opens the box a little bit more.
It was like forcing a person. This whole situation, like this whole week of surgery was insane. I went for surgery on the Tuesday. Wednesday.
No, and our dog got attacked. My dad was in hospital with a suspected heart attack on the Sunday.
That's right.
Adrian went for surgery on the Tuesday. Our dog got attacked and mauled on the Thursday, so I had to rush him to the vet for 2 subsequent surgeries.
20 stitches.
And then the Friday, Matisse, our daughter, came down with gastro. I'm like, this is the most insane week ever.
Yeah.
And just to be able to, I think any normal person would have a hard time coping with that. And yeah, physically, I did have a bit of a hard time. I did, get an adjustment period after it, but I got through the week. I still managed to take care of everything that needed to be done that week.
Incredible. The mental stability that she had. I've never seen that in the 22 years of our marriage. It was, and not saying that she's mentally unstable. I'm not saying that. But just a whole different. To be honest, I think we both have a completely different mindset now to just going through life.
Absolutely. And, it's great that you had the tools available and that experience under your belt, Paris, when those 4 big things happen in 1 week. That's a lot, even for a normal person. So, I mean, thank God you were on the upswing in your recovery, because had this happened last year, who knows what would have happened? Like, who would be taking care of you?
We don't want to think about that. We really don't want to think about that.
Yeah. So that's why, like, even me, I just stopped questioning the timing of things, and I'm like, I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. Because when I got better, it was actually, well, to paint a picture, I was living with my grandparents. They were feeding me, spoon feeding me, like I couldn't even shower. They were wiping me down, helping me brush my teeth. And then my grandpa passed away, who was my caretaker. Then I go to the hospital, but 4 months later, my grandma comes down with cancer. So they were two of my support systems, but that's after I met my doctor. I was in the hospital, rough time, went through a bunch of doctors. My second month in the hospital, that's when I met the doctor who taught me how to recover. So as I was getting my life back, getting out of a wheelchair, getting out of a walker, learning to live again, I started taking care of my grandma. So, 1 month she's spoon feeding me, wiping me down. I got blindfolds on my face. And then 4 months later, I'm pushing her in a wheelchair, driving her around to chemo appointments. And I was like, this is crazy. And the timing is just insane, because who knows what would have happened if I didn't get better.
Mm.
Like, there's barely anybody who would be able to take care of her, and I wouldn't have been well enough. So it's just crazy.
Which is why it's so important to, as Paris said before, to live in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. What's going on right now? What can I actually accomplish?
Control. Yeah. What can you control?
Right now? And that expression, there's a lot of videos on it about staying in the gray. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. And it's not being extreme. So, for you, Paris, what are some words of inspiration? You shared a lot of words of inspiration on here. Of somebody who was in your shoes about a year ago, maybe right around the time you found us, and you were just searching for anything and everything. And you are deep into this hole, really. You've tried so many things. Nothing has worked. Doctors aren't helping. If they were able to listen to you and hear your story like they are right now, what are some words of inspiration you want to share with them?
The program is definitely worth joining. It really, really helped. It was invaluable to me, and just especially having the one-on-ones with the coaches, that really helped, as well as the group calls where you can see other people in your shoes. You feel like, I'm not mental, I'm not going crazy, it is real, and there are other people experiencing this. So just having that knowledge really helped. And then just to keep going, keep focusing on the mindset and view each day as a win. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, it's still a win. It's still a step in the right direction, as long as you've kept your mindset good. Yeah. So I think and always finding something to be grateful for that you can appreciate each day. But definitely, like the help from Krista was really big, especially in the beginning. The help from the program and all of the knowledge that I got really helped, because I understood what was happening to my body now. It didn't. All my symptoms, now I look back at my list of symptoms and it makes sense. I understand why it's happening. And even now, I'm still a work in progress and I'm still recovering, but it's okay. It will happen in time, and I'll get to have bigger and bigger wins, which I'm looking forward to. I can see how much I've come in this last year, and now I'm excited to see what the next year brings. And I think it's for everyone. We didn't have, I'm not a special person. I don't have, special powers to get it right. I didn't get it right all the time.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times I didn't get it right, but I still kept coming back to the basics and make it work. And we didn't have the right circumstances. We didn't have an amazing year with external things happening. But still, if and even as a mum, it's hard when you've got a kid. You do something and you think, okay, I can sit down and take a rest now. And then it's, Mummy, I'm hungry. Mummy, I want to play. Mummy, I want to do this. It's a constant thing that you have when you're a parent, to be a parent. You can't escape that. So you can't always just bubble wrap. It'd be nice to bubble wrap,
until you're recovered.
Bubble wrap myself until I'm recovered and put myself in this nice situation. But life isn't perfect. You're going to have all of these external things happen. And if you're a parent, you have external things happening or things within your family life. But despite all of that, if you have the right mindset, you can still manage to get better, even if it is slow. It doesn't matter how slow you're recovering, as long as you're recovering.
Exactly. And I think when you say working with Krista, getting help from Krista, some people don't realize that you actually get a plan. They think like, oh, just watch some videos, come to some calls, and go follow what they tell you. But I mean, really, how impactful was it being able to have a custom plan for you that could be tweaked, that was very specific in, hey, walk this much, actually go outside, do this. Now we can drive. Like, how impactful was that?
It was really important for me. It really helped. And having that coach that can see you from their perspective, because sometimes we get so caught up in how we're feeling or what's going on in our life or what's going on with our symptoms that we don't always have a clear perspective. But having a coach that can see you and tell you, okay, now you need to rest, or now you can push a little bit more, or expand, probably a better word, expand a little bit more, telling you when you can expand and pull back, it really helped. And also just having someone to say, hey, I've got this symptom, is that normal? And Chris be like, yeah, that's fine. It just takes all of the weight off your mind, because sometimes no matter how much you believe it, there could always be this niggle doubt in there. But when you can talk about that with a coach or message your coach and they reassure you that, no, it's fine, you're all good, you're like, okay, I can relax even more now. That really helped.
It's like a safety net.
Big safety net, especially in the beginning of recovery. So as you go along, you might not need it as much as you gain more confidence, but especially in those first months when everything's so intense, having a coach by your side that you can message and talk to whenever you need that support, it really helped.
Even for me with Krista too, like there were times where, Paris was in the thick of a huge AP and symptoms just blaring everywhere. Even just to be able to ask Krista, like, how much should I be helping Paris to expand in this way, or should I be pulling back? As the support person, how best can we get through this next AP? Like, the big one. I think this is going to last some weeks. What's the best way? And just to get that advice, beautiful.
Adrian would get on and message Krista if he had a question.
It was always under Paris's name, but I'd say, hi, Krista, Adrian here.
We get that a lot, especially, if people are a bit more severe and they can't really type, then we get their support system typing. But it really does help to be able to have a plan in place. But also, if a curveball comes up or if there's an AP, then we can call an audible essentially and be like, all right, change your plans here for the next few days or this week. We're going to focus on this. Doesn't look like the original plan, what we were doing last week, but I mean, the circumstances are different. So we're going to kind of adjust here. We got to be flexible with it. And your symptoms can change day to day, right? So it's a matter of a lot of those times keeping the train on the rails, essentially. So you don't.
Which I think is that's why it's so important, I think, to have the coach, because like a coach in sport, the coach is going to tweak things and, push further on or pull back here. It's the same with this. If it was just a written bunch of rules and, week 1, do this, by week 4, you should do more. And to be honest, we've tried that. We tried that before and it went nowhere. Went absolutely nowhere. So to actually have a coach that is dynamic and, pull back, push forward, absolutely. I don't know how we would have done it, honestly.
Oh yeah. No, it did. It definitely makes a big difference. And also we can see your blind spots, right? And as much as we say, hey, here's what to do, here's what you should probably be doing and what's ideal, here's also what not to do. Like, here's some of your blind spots and we're noticing these things and this is probably a big roadblock for you. So we're going to just focus on this
Mhm.
one thing, whether it's the overthinking side of things, or if it's a pattern that we see, we'll be able to spot it right away and start adjusting it. So that way it's
Mhm.
not dead weight on your journey in
Yeah.
recovery. So
Yeah.
it's a mix of both. Adrian, what words of inspiration do you have for people's support system? Because you're coming from that perspective.
Yeah.
What would you want to tell like families, spouses?
Families and spouses to educate yourself as much as possible, particularly in the first 6 weeks. Those video modules, the illustrations, the diagrams, actually understand what the person who's going through it, actually try and just picture what they're going through. And then how would you want to be supported if you were actually going through this? Yeah. And yeah, because I know there's many out there who just don't think that this is a thing. Yeah, the chronic fatigue is, it's all in your mind, it's all whatever.
Yeah.
Try and get rid of those thoughts immediately as the support person, and just educate yourself on how this illness actually works and what the way out is.
Mhm.
Because if you've got that in your mind every time you're cooking a meal and eating dinner by yourself because the person who's sick is not there, or you're cleaning everything because they can't do it, and you share, every day that's playing on your mind, is this ever going to stop? Having the knowledge tells you that yes, one day this will stop, and I just need to keep going with her until it stops, until the nervous system balances itself, and then we will both be better for this. Actually, having that mindset from the beginning is, yeah, it's a lot of what's got through us through this period.
Oh yeah. And it's been a wild last 12, 13 months for you guys, but in a good way, because things are, on the upward trajectory, and it's only going to get better and better, which is the really exciting part. But I want to quickly read out, some of the goals you talked about 13 months ago, Paris. And I remember you might remember, or maybe not because of the brain fog, but I asked you, if we could snap our fingers and you could get your life back, what does your life look and feel like? What do you want to be doing again? And you said, have energy and not have to think about how much you can do in a day. Do things with your family, be a good wife and mother, and have the strength to do things with family and friends. Piano teaching, or just playing the piano again, and be able to eat everything was a big one for you. And,
Yeah.
you crossed most of these things off of
Yeah.
that list. It's a different life than it was
Well on our
13
way.
months.
Well, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
wild. So
It's been a difficult but a good year.
Yep.
yeah, awesome. And my last question is, would you guys say it's been a good investment so far?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
We would not be here, honestly. Both of us would not be in the state that we're in without this program. You would pay nearly anything for this, honestly.
It helped keep our whole life in focus this year too, just having the program there. Because without it, I think I would have, probably both of us would have easily just got sidetracked.
Mhm.
And possibly with all the things that were happening, we probably would have second guessed a lot of things in the recovery if it wasn't for the program. So having the program there and Krista there and the video calls there, it just kept us really focused and solid and helped keep going through even the difficult times without wavering in that mindset so much.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think we would have got lost.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
crazy curveballs come your way. And I think a big takeaway from this for all of you guys watching this right now is, Paris was making great progress, and then life curveballs started popping up here, there. Like, you could never predict these things. You can never really prepare for them. But in going through the recovery process, you are sharpening your mind and building this resilience within, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And I like to call it anti-fragile. And
Mm.
that week where life threw whatever it had at you, you were definitely anti-fragile. And with all these things coming up, there was every reason for this not to work and every reason to slip backwards, every reason to say, oh, you know, it's too hard to swat the thoughts away. It's a lot of stress, you know, the flare-up's going to be really bad, but you kept that thriver mentality and you kept going through it and you stayed strong. And that's why you're able to get through that. And that was essentially like a big progress cycle for you. It actually caused you to level up instead of knock you backwards. And that's really encompasses everything we teach here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it has basically made us robust people. We are now robust. Yeah. And obviously, to be robust, you have to have a good foundation. If that's there, everything else crumbles.
Exactly. So, you know, congratulations on making it this far. And the really exciting part, every time I do these recovery transformation videos, is I know this is just the start of a really, really exciting journey for you guys. Like this is really just the beginning of a much better, brighter, happier, more exciting chapter in your guys' lives, where you can travel more, work more, and really just not live within all these limitations like you have been for so long. And it's always really cool to see that. So, I mean, you guys are inspirations to the coaching team and other people in the program. So
thank you.
Cool.
Couldn't have done it without you all.
Yeah. And we're looking forward to the next
What's
year
next?
and what's
What's
next.
next?
And I was just going to say, it's funny. Some days I'll have a day where I feel really good and I feel like, hang on, something's wrong. I feel good.
Yeah.
There must be something wrong. And it's like changing that mindset to no, it's okay to feel.
This is actually
good.
right. This is actually normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new normal.
The new normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a new normal, but it's like an unfamiliar normal, right? You're almost expecting to wake up with symptoms, and it's kind of weird when you don't because it's been like that for so long. So, you know, for all of you guys watching this right now, hope you really enjoyed this one. This was really powerful. You know, you had CFS for quite a while, Paris. You've been through the thick of it. You guys tried so many different things. You had all these curveballs thrown at you, and here you are reintegrating back into life. And that is the true meaning of a thriver right there. Like you embody, both of you embody that. So for you guys watching this, just know that it's possible. It is possible to recover. And something you said earlier in this chat, Paris, is one of the things you did was stop putting timelines to this and stop putting these strict expectations, 3 months, 6 months. The truth is, if you guys are watching this right now, you're going to recover. It's just a matter of time and when that is. Could be 6 months from now, could be 12 months, could be whatever time frame. But in this lifetime, that time does exist where you're symptom free, you're out there living your lives. It's just a matter of time before you get there. Not if you recover, it's when you recover. Once you make that shift, it can really change everything for you. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Comment down your biggest takeaway from this. What was the biggest golden nugget or inspiring piece from this? And if you did want some extra help in your recovery, some hands-on help from people who have been in your shoes, then there's also going to be a link down below where you can apply for the program and see if we're a good fit to help you get better. But really enjoyed this time, guys. For you guys watching this, always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living life with thriving health. We'll see you guys in the next video. Paris, Adrian, thank you so much. Keep on crushing it.
Thank you very
Miguel.
much. Thank you.